You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Travis Hunter, he's the two-way player, a guy that's going to contend for the Heisman this year, I think, and kind of going a la Charles Woodson. If y'all are older college football fans, you remember the greatness of Charles Woodson in the Rose Bowl. I want to say against USC, actually, and just doing the Heisman pose during the Big Ten championship game. Like, he was just lighting things up back then for the Wolverines. But Travis Hunter has kind of made his own mark as a two-way player as well. And man, he's doing it. And we're seeing guys in the next several recruiting classes wanting to play two ways. So that had us thinking, who are some Oklahoma Sooners that could play two ways? Jay, what's a guy that you think could star on both sides of the ball?
And one reason why this conversation came up also is that during the luncheon that we talked about in the last segment, Joe John Finley mentioned that he could see Danny Stutzman playing on the other side of the ball. I thought that was hilarious. It's like Stutzman on the offense. I mean, technically, he could probably do some H-back tight end stuff, right? And he did have a touchdown reception, back I think in 2023. So it's not far-fetched. I mean, Tyler Guyton caught a touchdown for TCU at one point, right, as H-back. So it's not far-fetched. But what made me think about this even more was I was like, okay, as you mentioned about Travis Hunter, as talented as he is, on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball, who could cross sides, right? And one name jumps out to me because I remember when he signed in the class, there was kind of a pseudo battle between the coaching staffs of Jay Valai and Emmett Jones about where this player is going to play. Jacoby Johnson, right? Coming in at 6'2" and some change, running roughly a 4.4, 4.5 40, right? Fast, strong, got mad hops. He's got an interception when we played TCU to end the season, which was a beautiful catch, tapped the toe out of bounds, and boom, got his first collegiate interception. I think he's one that could go over on the wide receiver room and actually fight for some time, right? Because when you consider this, you have to also look at what's in that room. What does all of that look like? We got some really good dudes in the wide receiver room going into next season, and of course, we don't know who's going to stick around, but it's going to be hard to determine who's going to be able to play. But I think Jacoby's probably the one athlete I think on defense that could probably translate to the offensive side and be a dude, because he was a monster in high school. You throw him in like the slot or even as an X or a Z, or you put him in a Z, throw him in motion. Oh man, he could be nasty. So I think he's probably the one that jumped out to me. Who comes to mind initially in this conversation for you?
Jacoby's got such great athleticism. Kind of reminds you a little bit of a Dennis Bryant, a dude that can just go above the rim and just make plays on the football up in the air. I thought of Lewis Carter. Like, when you asked me this question, as we're prepping for the show, that was the first name that came to my mind, because I remember cycling back to the 2023 cycle, and you're watching tape of guys and you're going through just recruiting analysis, and I watched him and I feel like the first half of his highlights were running back highlights. Like, the dude was a star running back for Tampa Catholic. I mean, doing it all. Not only was he a great linebacker, but he was a stud running back. Like, he could have gone to 90 different FBS schools and probably played running back and been a 1,000-yard rusher. He's just that athletic. And again, this is a dude that Brent Venables raves about all the time because of his athleticism, his speed, his physicality. He's going to be a star linebacker. But in a pinch, say you were down several guys at running back and you needed to throw somebody back there to give you some carries, give you some snaps, that's a guy that could easily, I think, just jump back there and be like, all right, yeah, just give me the ball. Let's go hit some people and be just fine. Another name that I kind of thought of that I thought would be really fascinating would be a guy like Jaden Jackson at center. The dude is quick, physical, plays with great leverage. I mean, he's got the head for it. I mean, I think he could be an interesting aspect there. Is there somebody from the offensive side that you could think flip to defense?
That's the one that intrigued me. Like, I joke about EPL, Eddie Pierre-Louis flipping over and playing defensive tackle, right? I mean, I just find that kind of funny. I think he'd be pretty darn good at it if you really think about it. But I know Cade McIntyre.
100-yard dash speed.
Exactly, right. And oh yeah, he could. Oh my God, he would be. Oh wow, that would be.
Javon Kirkland.
That would be.
Throwback to Javon
Cause
Kirkland.
yes, yes, that would be fun. And I know Cade McIntyre played linebacker in high school.
Mhm.
He's definitely one that could do it. And I was looking in the wide receiver room. I was like, man, which one of them dudes could go out and play safety? Right? Who would be a good safety out of that room? And I don't know about any of them at this point, but I could see Javante Barnes probably playing safety,
Mhm.
right? He's got the
He'd be a thumper.
speed, and he likes to he likes contact. We've seen him run people over and everything or whatnot. But when you talk about Jaden Jackson, it's interesting. I wonder what he would look like at running back. You remember seeing the videos of Vita Vea playing running back in
Yeah.
high school
Yeah.
and just how rude it was and
Mhm.
disrespectful? I felt bad for all those little kids trying to tackle that dude. He was like running through folks. And it's like, what about Jaden Jackson doing something like
Yeah.
that? Just
Easton
because it
Stuff
would be
Pro.
funny to see a big dude. Right. Somebody like that, that would be interesting. Danny Okoye, we talked about him. Maybe at like tight end or um honestly, he could be a running back. I mean, he runs like a 4.5 40. He's a big dude, but could you imagine him at his size running people? That's
Yeah.
like that could be another Derrick Henry type situation.
Yeah. I mean you could play him at tight end, wide receiver, running back. I mean, he's got that
Hmm.
athleticism and that speed where he could do a lot of different things for you. Eric McCarty is another kind of natural choice. The guy was an all-stater at quarterback
He
and running back
was.
for McAllister. And again, another one you throw on the tape, and half of his highlights are just blowing people up and running for 80-yard touchdowns.
I know in the comments everybody's saying it's Jaron Kanek. I bet you
Yeah,
that.
of course. Yeah, Jared
that's
Kanek could
that's
be one of those
obvious one,
guys that
right?
throws out there. Speaking of Eric McCarty, man, I'm so excited to get him back on the field after
Me too.
spending the
Me too.
year medical redshirting from his ACL injury. I'll be really excited to see how much he's going to be able to contribute. I think special teams easily he'll be a big time contributor there because of his speed and
Hmm.
his physicality and athleticism and his smarts. Like I think he'll be a big contributor there. But it'll be fascinating. Can he break into the defensive rotation a little bit at safety this year, or will he still be a year away from actually contributing?
Yeah, that's true. Him and Andy Bass, right? I'm ready to
Yeah.
see what Andy Bass looks like coming off that knee injury as well. We looked out with some guys coming through that, little hurt, coming in rehab for a year. And Mecca Megwa, right? Same thing with him. And like it's funny, I was playing NCAA 25 and he has a very high rating. Kind of surprised me that I see him that high. But he was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school, right? The biggest thing was just health. And
Mhm.
when healthy, he has the size, he has the speed, and he has the power. He could really be your every down back, but I mean, he's had what 3 knee surgeries, so or at least 2. I think he's had a third, but it makes you wonder. So yeah, no, I totally get you with all 3 of those guys. Once they're healthy and playing, man, the depth in this team is definitely going to be very good and competitive. So we'll have some competitive depth. I'm excited about that part of it.